All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend Live podcast with your host, Ricardo Rice, and my co-host,
Simone Sherry.
All right, we are back. Listen, everybody, I am not on 160 like I was last week, so everybody's good. You don't have to, be in an uproar like we were last week. Even though people are really entertained by it, I am very animated when I really need to be, so I make no apologies for that. But yeah, last week I was on 106 because they were doing way too much.
Are you saying you made peace with the Cop City project?
No, I didn't say that. I'm feeling like you, so I'm feeling real kumbaya-ish. So I'm feeling real kumbaya-ish. So my thought process is I'm going to see how this plays out. Mm-hmm. And maybe the curriculum that they designed for this new $90 million Cop City training facility, maybe it'll have some things in it like, some peacekeeping things, like maybe they will look into the defund the police, de-escalations, defund the police ideology about reallocating resources to other types of spaces for particularly mental health people, things of that magnitude. So I'm willing to have a kumbaya moment in response to Simone. So we're going to say this plays out, but I am not happy. And this showed a lot about who are representing our communities of color. And I think that's the issue. And I think they're going to pay the hefty price when voting comes around. And hopefully they won't see these seats again. But I digress. So we have a special guest in the studio. You saw her last year when we were virtual, but we're so honored to have her in the studio today. So I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you about her. So take it away.
Well, thank you. Well, I did just return from a 4-day meditation retreat. We meditated all day.
Does that work? Do you feel like...
I can get into some of this a little bit here, but I'm I literally, every time I go, and this is Joe Dispenza, I went for a week long, and then I went for another follow-up, and I feel like I upgrade my life. I leave my old self behind, and I become a better person. So this meditation aspect is it's crazy because I feel like stress and negativity and all of that cause disease, but if we do the opposite, what can our life become, and what can we do physiologically with our body and our mind and just everything? So I'm leaning in and leading that way, but I'll just introduce myself. Elizabeth Garvish. I am an immigration attorney in the Atlanta area. We have a global business immigration practice. We also do family matters. I lead a team of about 12 to 13 people and growing. Most of our team are immigrants. Some are virtual, so some are outside of the country. We're able to kind of do a little bit more of a virtual practice, and that's what we're leaning towards. And most are women. We have one of our contractors who's an amazing legal assistant in Argentina. But we will get him here to America eventually, and I can't change his sex. But we're
you know what? Okay. What we're not about to do today? We're not doing this women rule the world thing.
I just want to tell you it's organic, and I don't know if it's like I had all these men bosses kind of throughout the day, and they kind of stomped on my dreams a little bit, and they weren't really invested.
We're not about to do this today.
They weren't invested in the growth. I'm not saying it could be anybody, but I'm just saying that is the past, which we're not going to live there. But I think what happens to us in our past kind of stems us going forward, how we're going to create. But I'm proud because my law firm has some amazing young women and future lawyers that are I can't wait to watch them rise, and I can't wait to help them soar. So that's kind of how we lead at Garvish Immigration Law Group. I mean, really with vulnerability, and we've defined we spent tons of time defining our core values, for our team, and giving them that information. But also, I've spent this time defining my big, hairy, audacious goal, my BHAGs, and what those are. So, which my two that I've just kind of spent some time really getting to my why of what I'm doing. I want to have the happiest law firm in America. I don't feel like I've kind of unlearned everything that I learned in college, law school, and the corporate law world. And I'm like, what can I create new? And what can I do? And I've been leaning into myself and kind of, seeing what kind of person I am, what are my strengths, and then also looking at my team's strengths and putting everyone in the right places. And my second one is I want to help 1 million people achieve the American dream.
Oh,
so
nice.
these are our whys. I mean, I want to affect my team and impact them tremendously, but I want to impact as many people, because I really think that, us giving, is that act of like helping and impacting someone else's life is like better than receiving. So like I just lead with that, and that's kind of like that's who I am. But I spent a lot of time kind of, I've been on this journey of like, hey, who do I want to be? What do I want to do in this world? And
you sure you're a lawyer? You don't sound like a lawyer. Are you sure you're a lawyer? You don't sound like a lawyer. Like,
I'm a new kind of lawyer.
Clearly, this is a new new genre of lawyer.
I'm a new kind of lawyer, and it's interesting because I do a lot of learning, and I have a lot of coaches, and I've actually like and I question a lot. So from a moral standpoint, like, is this law like make any sense? Is this even efficient? Like, is this medical? Like the way the doctor says, oh, this should be done this way. Well, there's other ways. Religion, we all grew up, and I think that there's a lot of value to organized religion, and but some of the things I'm like, this isn't working. So I think people need to stand up and kind of, we need to live the life we want to live and not just kind of follow along. And I found we did strength finders in our office, which is like,
oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah,
I've done that.
We're really kind of working with that, but I am positivity and futuristic. So I am the visionary. Like, so I create, and I'm like kind of putting out my vision. I have no executing skills. Well, I do. I was
going to say, you're an attorney, and attorneys certainly have to be
there's like the
conscientious.
The 4 sectors of the strength finders. I have like none right there. So I'm like, I have like a lot of achievers, a lot of arrangers that like are just amazing at that. So we put them in those seats, and they implement kind of what I'm dreaming up. But so that's a little bit about me, just so you gotta get an idea.
Let me pull out we did Strength Finders when I was at Wake Forest for It's All About Business, and that was the first and I have mine somewhere. And the 4 that I got, I was like, oh, that does sound like me. Not that one, but I could get there, but not quite that one. So that actually has a thing.
Illuminating.
Yeah, it really was, and it was a whole thing. All right, so what do we have on the rundown? What's
So there are actually a few top stories that would be great to get into, one of which is Biden's proposal, I guess a much bigger economic proposal, but it includes immigration. So I do think that we can use that to kind of segue, but there's a little bit of conversation about Georgia mirroring Texas's abortion law. Which, yes, we are still talking about that law.
Still talking about that.
And then, so speaking of not Cop City, but the mayoral race, there's also some new polling out for the mayoral race. And this is, I think they said, the most undecided race so far. And since they've been keeping polls, at least since the University of Georgia has been polling the local races, 52% of voters across all those candidates decided that they were undecided rather than picking a specific candidate. So there's no candidate that has like a double-digit percentage or majority right now in the
I would still put money on Kasim Reed. My money's on Kasim Reed.
I'm sure you will.
And again, I never thought I'd live to say that, but I looking at the other candidates, I don't know.
Well, actually, there was 14. There was a lot of candidates.
Which I didn't. We only heard about like 5. So everybody keeps saying like 4. Who were the other like 10?
There were. So at this point, we're looking at Antonio Brown, Andre Dickens, Sharon Gay, Felicia Moore, Kasim Reed. That's what we're looking at. Technically speaking, in terms of like campaign finance, Mayor Bottoms still has more money than all of them do.
Kasim included?
Yes, but considering we know that she's not going to run for re-election.
I don't know. It's too early. Kasim is like running circles around all the rest of them just from fundraising alone. I'm just like,
Yeah, the rest of the candidates.
And I don't count Antonio Brown. So
Why
technically, because Antonio Brown's a crook and I don't really deal with him like that. So
do you live in the city of Atlanta?
Yeah.
So are you voting? Are you undecided? Are you one of the majority that's undecided right now?
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I just feel like I own property in Buckhead, and I have my business in Buckhead. My children attend the Atlanta International School. I spent years arranging my life to kind of be in my neighborhood, and we're in Peachtree Park. And, so we can be close by, we can walk to school, and I can actually, when I get the new building done, we can walk to work. I mean, I spent so much time doing that, but what I've seen, what affects me, I live a bravery, courageous life. Like, I don't have fear about many things, but I do have fear for people that don't value another human life and seem to like just be reckless. And so how can I protect my children from that? And how do I navigate this? Because
because crime is just rampant.
I know.
There was a shooting just this morning. We were talking about it over in Brookhaven, so not too far from this studio. But yeah, violent crime in particular.
It's in our
is through
neighborhood.
the roof.
The Montessori where my kids go, like some 18-year-old girl shot another 18-year-old girl in the apartment building. And then we were just going to the drugstore, and then the ambulance is screaming by. And then, across from Preachy, this place where we walk at the Quality Inn Suites. And that's right next to where I have my commercial building. And so there was like some gunshot, like injury and ambulance. I explain that to 6-year-olds. And
this is true.
Then Peachtree Battle. I was out of town, and then Peachtree Battle. There was 2 teenagers where one was murdered, or one was not murdered, killed. I think he was committing a felony, and then the other one is charged with murder. So I'm just like, oh my God, I understand we're in a city and this crime, but this is different.
No, it's definitely an uptick, and so every city has supposedly had an uptick in crime since COVID and in violent crime, but not so much as Atlanta. I think our percentage was the biggest since 2020. So now that we've mentioned that, I want to ask you about cityhood. How do you feel about Buckhead cityhood?
I'm on some of the Facebook groups, and I really avoid, I just avoid the news completely. I'm focused on so positive.
It is
and
depressing.
my goals moving forward.
It certainly is.
It's depressing. I don't think I watched it. I just get the highlights from CNN, AJC, so that we know what's going on. We talk.
I just live in a different way of thinking, honestly, because people get so stuck in this default feeling sorry for myself, just going down this negative energy, and I try to stay up here, and I try to avoid that kind of stuff. But I'm listening to what people are saying, and I just want to have a joyful life where I feel safe walking to school with my kids. Is that too much to ask?
I mean, in this day and time, in our current state.
And the other thing is, I don't want to be run out of my home, because that would be our next step, but I'm not there yet. But and I really have a lot of hope for change, and I think our world. But those kind of things that I'm one of those people. I am not political, and I do not I'm not part of any party. If you do my personality index, I'm
what does it say?
I'm an individualist, and I'm really subjective. Okay. So I'm kind of out here in left field, so I've had people just ascribe their beliefs that they think I have to me.
I was gonna say, that sounds kind of libertarian to me. It sounds like left libertarian.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to. I have my issues, and I like to keep a little bit of that private. But everyone has the right to the pursuit of happiness, and we have the right to live in a peaceful place.
If everybody believed that, we'd be in a great situation. But
if everyone
if everybody believed that,
if we just did everyone did an hour of meditation a day, our world would be different. Every day, our world would be different.
I did yoga my last semester at Coastal, and I just needed a credit hour, and that was 1 credit hour, and I was actually impressed and amazed at how centered. I was no longer cussing folks out and trying to fight. I was really centered.
Wow. What are you
doing right now?
I cannot believe what I'm hearing.
I did the whole namaste thing and was bent up like a pretzel, and I actually was pretty good at it. I actually would do
Not the
yoga
flexibility
now.
Part, but I mean, that it actually had an impact on you. I can believe that maybe you...
What do you think I do? What do you think I'm some troll that goes back to my tower when we're done with the show? What is happening right now?
No, I just can't believe that you allowed yourself to be open to that in the first place. I'm
a very emotional person.
An impressive way.
I'm a very emotional person.
Also a very tense person at times, kind of tightly wound.
I do run an empire. I mean, hello, let's not forget that.
You seem like somebody who would be meditating, who just could not relax. And a movie
coming out. I do have a lot going. I'm not going to do this with you today. What you're not going to do is
that's remarkable. But No, but I do hear what you're saying, and I do think it's healthy to kind of filter out how much you listen to 100,000%. I, on the other hand, I do subscribe to, I've got Twitter lists to help me follow public safety because I want to know what the Cobb County Police Department's doing, and the Gwinnett County Department, and the Fulton County Department, and I like to keep track of that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of news I don't follow.
But your whole world is like politics, so you're on the hill.
I care about public safety
and stuff. So I mean, that's your sphere. That's where you reside at. I reside in actual media. So the TV show, the film we're working on. So I mean,
to be fair, some of the data that I think would put people at peace, but that we don't have is are these shootings all this person knows this person, or are they random? They're starting to sort of collect that data, but they don't always have answers to that question. Was this a random act of violence? That's a scary idea, I think, for everybody, which is probably why we were talking about Cop City.
I mean, if you are, if you have to wait 5 or 10 minutes on the phone with 911, I mean, criminals know that. See this.
Yeah,
they know.
Yeah.
Oh, I can get
to be
away.
fair, that part hasn't happened, but there are staffing shortages. Like
No, I mean, I hear that's just through the grapevine what I hear, like on the, there's definite groups on Facebook that and there's the Citizen app and all that. I mean, which I don't really watch too much, but because it's scary. I don't, and I don't.
Yeah.
I'm busy. Like I'm busy doing other things. Although, like this is such. There's so many important topics. We only have so much energy to do.
I agree.
I'm
completely.
kind of focused on my goals. Like I'm impacting those people. And what I can do. I can pray for these people that just feel, so just don't value life and just feel so desperate. And I feel for them, and I don't know how to heal them. Some days when I'm not doing well in those days, and I understand, I'm just like, I don't know how to heal myself today. And I let myself kind of be a little bit unhealed. But we need some major changes to heal our country.
For sure. Let me ask you about a different situation that may have impacted your practice too, but that also I think impacts you personally because you do have kids in school right now. So what about I was reading an article about an uptick in COVID cases for Metro Atlanta schools. And I know that I think for a while, a lot of different districts were doing things really differently and like setting things up differently. But now that we're all back to school, has that been a concern for you at the schools that you have to do the drop off at? Do you think that it's...
I'm just not one of those people that lives in fear.
Okay, meaning what? Like you feel like for your district or in general?
I mean, I just feel like there are people and I have them within the groups that I'm in, my entrepreneurs organization. People have different levels of feeling with COVID and people are just like, there's highly, I will not go around you. I'm not doing anything. Or there's the people that are just like, I think I'm going to be as cautious as I can. I wear my mask. I do whatever, but I'm just not going to be concerned. And then I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we are healthy, our immune systems are healthy, and then believing, knowing, and kind of having the right mindset. That fear puts us in this place where we're susceptible to disease. We're in a downward vibration. So I don't think I'm going to get COVID. I honestly believe that. And of course we're vaccinated. I believe in vaccines. They do so much good, but I'm not going to live in that place. I can't do it.
I don't think we have that. I don't think we have that option anymore because I don't think they're going to close the city down again. So I think at this point we have to learn how to live with it.
I don't think it's going to work, but the schools are doing I haven't even been in my kids' classroom. We couldn't even, see the teachers. And we did second day of school in Christian's class. There was a COVID case with a child. And, we were out, one twin went to school and the other one was at home with me. And he's just like, woohoo.
It was party time.
Yeah. And so that wasn't good. But I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to do whatever. And when it comes to that, people are getting so mad about these masks and this and that.
Oh, very mad, belligerent, big.
We're talking about fights at
I also I've got people on every side. For me, that's not an issue. I think vaccines are inherently good. Why? Look at the past. It's I like PPP, past positive proof. And then everyone's bringing up all this stuff. It could do this. It could do that. It could do.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids. Yeah.
And then there's ways that you can strengthen your immunity through meditation practices and things like that. You're gonna hear meditation.
Hey.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. People are gonna be like, "Oh, that's unbelievable. You can't do that with your mind and your body." And I'm like, "I can."
No, I disagree. My wife's a big meditator. We're Christian.
Yeah, I was going to say that. She certainly have a balance thing because P kind of balances you. So you have that luxury at home. I don't have that luxury at home. That's just me. P is almost the opposite of you. She's very laid back and very, this is what it is. And you're the uptight one.
That's what everybody's wife looks like up top. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I love my wife.
I'm just saying, but
no.
I digress. So let's get into immigration. Let's go ahead and get into
cool.
Elizabeth's fields. All right, so let's start from ground zero. The terms that people are hearing that they probably are not aware of what that means and things of that magnitude. So I'm going to start with DACA. Okay. What is DACA? Why does it matter? Because a lot of times when we hear immigration, that's the first thing that comes up for most people. And most people just I don't know what that means, so I don't care. What is DACA? Why is it important?
It's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So it's those individuals that were brought to the U.S. by a parent or relative or whoever, and there's a certain period of time they had to enter, there's certain regulations, they had to be this age, they have to show residence in the U.S., but they've actually, it's the dreamers. So it's people that, they came in as babies or kids, and they really didn't, through no fault of their own, and now they're grown up, and they were left without a status. So this has kind of been one of those things forever, but Trump was kind of clamping down on DACA. We could get 1 year only. We couldn't get advanced parole, so you couldn't travel to see a dying relative or anything like that. And this is something where, it started way back. I mean, I'm just trying to remember the year it started, but people have been on DACA and be able to register themselves and then extend and get a work permit and live a relatively normal life. Prior to Trump, we were able to get advanced parole, travel permits. And some of those people could maybe get paroled in, and if they were married to a U.S. citizen, or there was they were able to adjust their status and get their green card. I have several cases like that now. 4 years, that was not an option, and now we are back sending people to travel now. And, or maybe, I haven't seen my mother in 20 years, or I haven't seen my grandmother, or whatever. It's like an urgent need to travel. And I have one DACA from India that she's hasn't been to India in, I don't know how many years, but 20 years or something. But she's got, a sick grandfather, or maybe grandfather died. I don't know. Something happened. Something's going on. I mean, but it'll take us several months to get that permit if we can maybe get it extended. But what happens is, if you are admitted or paroled and you have an immediate relative U.S. citizen, like spouse or parent, or, if you're in that, it wouldn't be a parent if it's a DACA, but maybe. But usually it's a U.S. citizen marriage, then you can adjust that way. So that means get your green card. So she'll be able to, and that's a lot easier, because otherwise you would have to go back to the consulate and get a waiver.
So how many people are we talking about when we DACA recipients? Do you have an idea about how many folks? I mean, I'm just curious, because the numbers that I think we hear about for undocumented people, I think...
Don't ask me numbers or statistics, dates or anything like that.
Well,
I'm not going to
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, does Georgia really have a huge immigrant population? Because I've heard Georgia referred to as one of the top several states, but I'm like, is that really true that you know of?
Of course.
I really cannot honestly tell. I truly can't, which may say a lot in and of itself. But I'm from the West Coast, and I think maybe just there it was much more apparent to me that we had a really diverse population and not just a black and white population. And black and white and American, I should say.
I mean, our practice is global, and we represent people in all 50 states. We do. So I have clients everywhere. Most of my practice, DACA is a little bit, but that's not our major practice area. So I wouldn't even... if somebody comes to us, we can definitely do that, but that's the undocumented population is not really our client base. But I refer those to Omna if they're in immigration court or something. But for us, it's corporations, big hospitals.
Really?
Practice. Oh yeah, we represent WellStar, the largest health system in Georgia. So there's a huge shortage of physicians just in our country based on the fact that there are, a growing elderly population. And, I think a lot of maybe American people are not going to medical school as much because it's just not the same. I see the wages are not quite as, my dad was a doctor, and I think it's kind of, he had his own practice for so many years. It's kind of different now. And so you really got to love healing people and going into that area. But we are getting, who we deal with a lot, and I think all of the health systems around the country. I mean, we've been doing this for years, but it's kind of, I'm seeing an uptick everywhere. And I'm seeing at least the clients we have, they're like, this is a useful tool to fill the needs of, that you have, and these are not, imagine you have the best and the brightest from whatever country it is. So they're coming to do their training, their residency and fellowship here in the U.S. and Yale, Johns Hopkins. I mean, I've got some all over everywhere you can imagine. I mean, we probably have done, I don't know, it's dozens of doctors in just the last 6 months. And they're highly, highly trained, highly specialized, and they're coming to serve in Atlanta and like these areas in Georgia, and some are underserved areas. They're designated underserved areas. So, and then we have another big hospital in Iowa that we represent that has 2 facilities there, and they actually are doing, they're bringing in medical technologists, and they just told me there's like 6 more coming, and we're just doing the engagement letters for those. And
can you help people? I was going to say really quickly before you go deeper, could you help people understand what employment visas, what that process looks like, how it works?
So there's if you want to immigrate to the U.S., okay, there's only a certain few ways that you can. I mean, they would be, you have a family member, and that family member petitions for you. If it's an immediate relative, it's much quicker. There's wait times. If it goes, all the way down to like a sibling, and it depends if you're a green card holder and you're petitioning, or if you're a U.S. citizen, so it can be spouse, child, parent, sibling, and there's a list of preference categories, of the family preference categories. But there's wait times. So sometimes it could be 6 years, it could be 12 years to get your sibling here, or longer. So those are workable in some ways. And then there's the employment-based immigration system. So there's also a set of preference categories. So there's like the first preference is a multinational manager, extraordinary ability alien. There's advanced degree, national interest waiver.
Extraordinary ability alien.
I was like, so wait, are they mutants? Like, what are they?
That's what they're called. That's what I'm sorry. I'm so used to that.
I know that term is an official term, but extraordinary, when you add something like extraordinary ability, it's like, what?
They're a resident alien. That's what it is. But yeah, I mean, I shouldn't even use that term because that sounds bad. But I'm just so used to even doing this for like 20 plus years.
Well, yeah, but so what are some of these categories? What are some of those preferences? You mentioned with families.
And those are like permanent. So you've got the permanent categories, and then you've got all the way down to like, the third preference is like bachelor's degree or 2 years experience or no experience or unskilled.
Gotcha.
And then you've got the investors, a religious worker. So there's different categories, and there's quotas annually. So
really?
Yeah, there's quotas annually. So they'll bring in so many in the category, and they're per country limits. That's why India has a big population. A lot of people are coming, but they're waiting like 10 years to like finalize.
What's the thought process behind the per country limit?
This is like so old. I mean, this is going back to like, I don't know, before I was even, I don't know when the Immigration Nationality Act, it's just so far back. And I guess they don't want to have too many people from one country.
I just wanted to underline that because I couldn't think of why else you would have a per country limit.
Well, I guess my
it's not really workable. That needs a lot of reform. And like they count in the numbers, the dependents. And so like there's some easy fixes that we could really kind of clear up these backlogs. But you've got the permanent immigrant system. So you could just like say, I've done this, like bring somebody from abroad and just do their green card. Like you have to go through the Department of Labor, and you have to test the job market. So we make sure that there's no U.S. workers available, willing, or qualified. We do exactly what the Department of Labor wants us to do. There's a recruitment aspect. They have, their number one key like goal is to protect U.S. workers. So we go through that, and then we get that approval, and then we go through an immigration USCIS approval, and then we either go to the consulate and they come here, or if they're in the U.S., they can just adjust and get their green cards, and their family members can. And then once they get the green card, they're eligible for citizenship. Or, then it comes into, that's the permanent stuff. And then the non-immigrant, temporary. So you've got the permanent green card immigrants. So the immigrants, and you've got the non-immigrants, which are temporary.
Okay.
So there's all the alphabet soup of visas that you can get for those.
That was going to be my next question. So is a green card and a visa different, or are they the same thing?
Well, there's an immigrant visa. Like, so if you went to the consulate abroad, you would get an immigrant visa, or they're called immigrant visa numbers. But yeah, so the green card is the ultimate like end point of your journey.
Okay.
But if you are abroad, and you'll be issued an immigrant visa on your passport, and then when you arrive at the port of entry, they will process you there, and you'll get the green card in the mail. So
So a visa is temporary?
A visa is actually just what is stamped in your passport. And that says your name, and it says like the dates that you can come in, like what status you're in, like the, put whatever, all the little data you've got on there. You've got a visa control number, and that's for your entry. So you could be in the U.S., like you might come in on a visa. Let's say you come in on a student visa. So you went to the consulate abroad and you applied. First of all, you had to get admitted to the school in the U.S. and then they issued a Department of State document called the I-20. And then you get an appointment and you show that you've got the funds, and you have to also show that you don't have immigrant intent. You're only non-immigrant. So you're only going to be here temporarily for your course of study. Get your visa stamped in your passport, and you can come on in. So that might be the last time you have a visa, because once you do your course of study, you actually, like, let's say it's a bachelor's degree in business. So then after that, you get a year of optional practical training. If you're in a STEM field, you can actually get up to 3 years, because you can extend additional time. So it's engineering, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. But then, so let's say you've got your optional practical training, and then they apply for an H-1B for you, or some other, depending. So, and then they could even apply for the green card. So you may just never leave the country.
Right.
And never need a visa again.
Right. So when someone is marrying an American citizen, they're never issued a visa. That would give them a green card.
Right. There will be let's say, so the marriage cases are fairly simple. I mean, there's a lot you need to do, but it's a one-step shot. Like we get it all ready. Everything's done. We file a whole big package, and then we wait. And at the point of filing, they're eligible, the foreign national is eligible for a work and travel permit. And so they get that, but sometimes that takes forever. Those are taking a long time. And then they're called for an interview. And so they want to, I just had 2 interviews this week, and both of them got approved like the same day. I mean, it was like, I was just going to even make a comment about like kind of this, I'm all about energy, but the energy that I'm feeling, and I've been sending my staff, like my other attorneys, I'm like, you go do this. Because sometimes, because I'm like, oh my gosh, USCIS, sometimes like you go down there, it's like, dun, dun, it's just drab, and and everyone's kind of grumpy, and you're just like, what's going on here?
So it is like what we see in the movies, because that's what you see in the movies. If there's an immigration
it's just like,
point,
I'm just pushing paper and all this stuff. So it's just like, oh my gosh. But I had 2 of my favorite clients. Like I just love, like we went to dinner the night before, and I just like, I made sure I had somebody to take my kids to school. Like I had to leave the house at 7:30 to be there for them. But it was just like, they're like the epitome of like love, and I love love. So I was just like, we had the security guy that knows me. He's like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. How's the kids? What's going on? I'm like, he was always nice, but it's like, it felt really good to come in and feel this energy. And then I'm kind of friendly with people. I go give people hugs and do all that stuff. And because people can show up with their energy, and it's like kind of, and you're just like, hey, I'm going to smile, or I might give you a hug, or hey, whatever it is, So I kind of like leave that impression. But I have one officer too, that she was kind of right across the hall, and we went into our interview, and I was like, hey, how are you? And I already texted with her. Like I texted her. I've like shared my life stories with her, and she's like, can I have your hand back? She's just joking, but I'm like, we have to get together. And, so I was just like, knock, and said hi. So I just felt that kind of energy. And then our officer that we had was like, so nice. And then I'm sitting next to like this couple that is so loving, and this beautiful energy is like happening, and everyone's trying to kind of, it's like that universe conspires to kind of get you to where you need to be.
I hear you.
And so I felt that it's a big departure from kind of the last 4 years, because there was a lot, and we weren't always at immigration, but just kind of those people behind the desks. And what they were mandated to do, and how they were mandated to act, and it was like deny every way you can. Make it as hard as possible. Do anything you can to like make these people suffer.
Okay, so in that space, because while we're in that space, let's stay in that space. So what are some of the major differences you've seen from the previous administration to this administration process-wise?
Yeah.
Like what were some of the things that were really tough to deal with?
I don't feel like there's like any huge like, oh, this is a major change. Like a few things that are, I feel like, oh, they're trying to make a difference here, but it's a lot of undoing. So a lot of undoing what was not right. So for example, I've done a few of these things, like the public charge policy. That was such a pain. Oh my gosh. So they switched. So with every family-based petition historically, there's an inadmissibility ground that's called public charge. So if it's likely that you will go onto welfare, any means tested public benefit, you could be inadmissible to the United States. So you need to complete what's called an affidavit of support, and you have a sponsor who makes above 125% of the poverty level.
Oh my God, I saw that on 90 Day Fiance. I saw that on 90 Day Fiance. Like you see the families, and they're like, well, I want to bring Ingo over here, and they're like, well, we're the ones that have to be responsible for her if she comes here. We have to show proof. And okay, Kara,
So the affidavit of support, I mean, generally it's just like a mathematical thing. I mean, you make this much money. I mean, it's not, for most people, it's not like a crazy amount. If you have a household that's like you have 10 members in your household and you make $30,000 or less, that could be a problem. Then you have an option of getting a joint sponsor. But the plan, what Trump did, and they were just like, that was litigated like crazy. So we didn't know, do we file it with the cases? Do we not file it? Well, he moved it from from family-based to all cases, whether you're 2 years old, whatever it is. So, and all employment-based cases. And we have physician cases. We had to be showing public, and then the onus would go to the immigrant. So they had a set of factors like education, English proficiency.
Right. I think I remember like a point system sort of a thing.
Yeah. So they do like kind of a totality of the circumstances determination. And so I don't like, how are we gonna see that play out? We never really got to see it play out, but we sure had to do a lot of paperwork. I mean,
I'm sure
we would do like this. And then we had to do it for this, the wife, and then all the kids,
Oh, wow.
And so it's like, oh my God, this is so annoying. And then, of course, I had to charge extra to all the clients. And then we were like, we didn't know based on the litigation that was ongoing whether or not we would have to like file this extra petition.
Yeah.
And then the litigation would change. So they'd send a request for evidence. You've got to file this petition. And there was a couple, like we had a couple of them that I was like, whoa, I had two that I was like, oh my God, I was just like, please let this work out. Because one was just, they were not going to meet the public charge requirement on their own. It just wasn't going to happen. They both have their green cards now. I mean, they're, because it just,
Really
one
cool.
was like, it was a gay couple, like Latino, Black, and he was a veteran. So he was in the service. And so, we were able to actually do this, what's called parole in place, where he had entered without inspection, the fiance beneficiary, but we were able to actually issue the entry document because of the military connection. So that took us like forever. And then we kind of we were ready to file. I remember I love to celebrate those moments because it's like 3 years.
Yeah. All this build up to it.
Like I literally I'm talking on Zoom to these two guys. And I'm like, yeah, I think let's try this. I'm like, I hope it works. But
then you just have to wait.
Yeah. And then we're just like, every step is like, takes forever. And then we've got these challenges and what's coming up. And then I just remember when I was like, I don't know, we got the approval and, I'll tell you that story. Oh my gosh. So I was on the phone. So they're in South Carolina. And so I was on the phone.
Wait, what part?
I think I'm not sure where they live, but they were in Charleston for the interview.
I'm from Walterboro, so it's not that far from
Well, I was remote, and so I was just on the phone listening because they were allow us to do telephonic representation. And so they were nervous. They were so nervous and all this. And this is a marriage case, but I was just like listening, and the officer was like very stern and gruff. He was like ex-military, by the book. And he's like, yeah, why don't you have any pictures and shared life evidence? Why don't you have any pictures with your family? I don't see any picture with your family. There's only pictures here with your friends. And they're like, well, in our community, they're like, yeah, in our community is like homosexual, like our lifestyle is not accepted, kind of in the Black Southern community and then the Latino community. And so our friends are our family. And like, we've kind of started new and most of our family doesn't, most of our family doesn't know about our, doesn't know about our lifestyle. And so, but it was like stern and whatever. And he's like, well, and then the officer, because I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to give him a hard time, And he's like, well, my son, and because I said something about the military and that can kind of be like, that's a strict background and that may not be acceptable, depending. And I didn't know everything, but I was like, it's just like, this is kind of where they're coming from. But he's like, well, I'm ex-military for 25 years and I have a gay son and that wouldn't be right for me. And I was like,
so then that kind of went, he was like, okay, we might be good. We might
fine.
Be okay.
That case, I mean, there was some other question he had or whatever. I was approved that same day.
So is it like a court process? Like you're there kind of representing them?
Yeah, it's not a court process, but it's just like, it's in the interview. Usually I'm just kind of sitting there not saying much because they're giving their it's not it's sworn, but it's not like testimony, but it's like they're.
But it sounds like it's really subjective. Like it really may depend on who you're in front of, or are any of those questions just kind of?
I mean, it can be, but it shouldn't be. I mean, if you have a valid marriage, if they don't think that your life is like a they could issue a request for evidence or notice of intent to deny and say, we don't think usually what they'll say, we don't think you provided enough evidence of shared life, or we don't think that that kind of thing. So. That happens occasionally, and then you just try to submit more evidence. But I mean, yeah, it is. That's kind of hard to like. How do you? I mean, I can't. I used to be with every client. I'm like, oh yeah, there's. I had one. I was completely shocked. We had one, and I had no idea. And I sent another lawyer to the interview, and I think it was in Alabama, and. Because they had so much documentation, and they have I think he like paid her for the green card, and like supposedly she was pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh. She like
layers.
She like flopped in the interview, like and just like said, she withdrew the I-130, and he's screwed, and he lied to me.
Gotcha.
Wow.
I'm like, I don't know what to say. So now I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to really I just kind of go with my gut instinct and feeling with people. But there's a set of guidelines I have when I'm taking clients. I'm like, if you met at Lenox Mall and you got married 30 days after that, I'm not going to
take you on.
That could be love.
Unless you have children. I mean, if there's children involved and they're like, and they're the children between the two, that's pretty good evidence. But there's some other cases where, I mean, I just thought I could, I used to be like, I can do everything, but I don't want to live this stress, and I don't want to be part of your lie if it is. And I just don't, so.
I hear that.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too much, because most of our marriage-based clients are referrals from, most of them are like, oh, they've got beautiful wedding pictures and they look amazing. And it's like, there's not a question. But sometimes I have a little bit in my mind of like, oh, no, I don't think that's really I don't think this is pretty good. We kindly refer them.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
So what are major issues in immigration currently?
Yeah. So I was just talking about like kind of what has changed. And that's the public charge for sure. We don't have to do it. Like we had to do something that was really hard and super annoying, and now we don't have to do it. So it feels really good.
Very cool.
So there was a lot of challenges to like the specialty occupation definition for the H-1B visa, which we handle a lot. So there's a ton of litigation about that. Like the good thing about immigration lawyers is they're like, they're actually lots of my colleagues are coming together with our bar association and challenging things through federal litigation. So a lot of that is really helpful for the rest of us. But they're, if something's not right, they're kind of challenging that, and so we're getting some results in many areas. Is
this about like the limited occupations?
They'll come up with anything with like the H-1B. They were just saying, okay, well, for example, like, okay, if you're in an entry level job, that's not a specialty occupation. They were kind of coming, and. Well,
gotcha.
Doctor, lawyer.
I was about to say, when you say special occupation, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like doctors, lawyers.
Yeah. Specialty occupation, the definition is, and this is the H-1B, that it's a job. It's not what the foreign worker beneficiary has. It's what the minimum requirement for the job for entry.
Okay.
So that is a bachelor's degree or the equivalent in education and or experience. So we're able to evaluate work experience, and 3 years of work experience is equal to 1 year of university education. So we can get a professor to do an expert opinion evaluation, and we provide that as evidence of a bachelor's degree. And sometimes the minimum requirements are a master's, or sometimes it's for JD or but it could be tons of professions. But with H-1Bs, the one thing that's changed, and that's not really from Biden or anything, but now we've had a lottery for decades because there's a quota for the H-1Bs annually, and so that runs out. But this year it was three. What happened? You used to have to send in get your whole petition ready, like charge all your attorney's fees for the whole petition. Then you send it in, and then they just return it. And that was like for 15 years they did that, and then they just return. But like the cost for for the mailing and all of that, and they return the ones they didn't pick in the lottery. And now it's a registration process, which I think is working pretty well. But there was 300,000 registrations for 85,000 slots, more or less.
Wow.
So that's interesting, but Yeah, I mean, and they had 2 rounds of the lottery, and we got like maybe 30%, 40%, 35% selected from our group that we filed. But it's that's a problem that still needs. There's such a need for these workers, and there's probably a lot of things behind, a lot of little tweaks in the law that could just totally change everything. But
so before you move, let me ask you this. So because you're in that space, are you seeing an uptick of people being let in now? Because thanks to COVID, primarily, we're seeing shortages in all these fields. So are you seeing like an uptick in more acceptance for people with these specialty areas because we really need them now?
I mean, the problem is right now is you can't get a visa appointment abroad. There's like, I don't know. The last time I checked was this a couple months ago. It was like 500,000.
Is it like a backlog of people? They
shut down all the embassies. The Turkey embassy has been closed since like March of 2020. And
they're not doing virtual stuff? It's just closed?
Not doing anything.
Wow.
The Department of State has completely just imploded. Like all of Europe, I can't get anyone here on like investor visas. Like, because now, and under Biden, it's like you have to get a national interest exception. And so, and then they won't like adjudicate your visa unless you qualify for the national interest exception. Because you could just go and quarantine somewhere else for 14 days if you have the visa, but they won't give you the visa abroad. So all of Europe, the Schengen area, is pretty much, it's very hard to get people out of there.
Wow.
That's a problem. I have people waiting for immigrant visa interviews. Year plus when they should have, it should, 3 months after they were documentarily qualified. And this is for their employment. I used to be like, yeah, just go back to the embassy, come on back in. It's easy. And now we're having like, for the physicians that we've had to send out and come back in because of the visa type, we have a couple right now. We just got one back in. Generally, you go back to your home country, but we can't send her to the Philippines or anything, or India or wherever it is. And so we are going to Mexico, and they're being pretty good, but you'll get your initial appointment. It'll be like February of 2022. Oh. But the start date's like August 31st. So you've got to expedite your appointment. So it's a lot of different, we've got to show this is an underserved area she's working in. She's in a physician in this field, and so they're pretty good at doing emergency expedites, and they will get those visas issued, especially if it's in a core infrastructure sector and things like that. But so we're kind of for the physicians that I have, we're relying on Mexico because we're not sending back to the home country, and I've got one more I've got to get scheduled, but it's like, and then I've got all these Filipino medical technologists, which obviously they need medical technologists because we're doing these tests, it's just. So we've got to get them, out of the Philippines. So we're going to have to do all emergency expedite appointments, and kind of that's an extra thing. But in various countries, we have Brazil's one. There's just the national interest exception is like impossible to get. Biden actually put out a new set of criteria, and it's not manager. It's not a manager. It can't be a manager. It has to be someone working directly in the core infrastructure sector. And, I have a ton of restaurant workers, like executive chefs and managers, and I can't get them here.
Really? Is it desperate as they are in restaurant industry? I figured I'd been the first one they would have moved.
Yeah. So how does employment impact that? Like if employment rates are lower, does that make it harder to get those work visas? Like, do you find that those applications move faster if we have a lot of need, or does it not seem to matter what the need is?
This is all based on COVID.
Okay.
It's all based on COVID and the rule, I guess.
Because I keep seeing reports about Georgia having such low unemployment. It's kind of
people are desperate because people are coming to me now with all over the country just trying to staff temporarily. So we're doing H-2Bs, which are temporary worker visas. People are desperate. I've heard from many, they can't get the workers they need here. These truckers, and we have lots of transportation companies. We've got some resorts and restaurants. Of course, they have seasonal need anyway, sure. But it's even exacerbated now.
I'm sure it's magnified now.
And so they may not have hired before H-2Bs, but they're going to be doing that now. It's really interesting. But this is an event. It can be classified as a one-time occurrence, an event that's happened that is, hopefully. it's making the need for these temporary workers, or it could be you need this type of worker and you've never needed them before and you won't need them again.
Gotcha.
But you need the specialized like stained glass person to do this thing, so you're going to bring those people in because they're the artisans or something. So there's like you've got to show the temporary need. It could be peak load, it could be seasonal, So and then one-time occurrence. What's the other one? I forgot. But yeah, so you show that need and you can bring in these workers, and there's like quotas every half year, but you still go through Department of Labor, kind of just like you have to show there's no U.S. workers there. You have to do all of that tests. So
those don't have to be renewed, do they? Like every couple of years?
I mean, the H-2Bs, you maybe get 6 to 9 months. That's it.
Wow.
And then you have to go back?
Well, what's a temporary need? You kind of have to show, you might, maybe go back, and then depending, like one-time occurrence, you can get up to 3 years. Maybe extend up to 3 years. I kind of changed one of my cases from they have a recurring peak load need. Like so every year they have a workforce. They hire temporary workers, one part of the year. This is a recurring peak load need. But they also have this like kind of exacerbated need based on the pandemic. So we actually were able to say, hey, the need is not only a recurring peak load need, but on top of that, like it's not changed, but we also have an additional need based on this food supply chain issue and the pandemic. So that worked.
Well, I was going to ask about this. Okay, so this visa process, does it look like, is it kind of formulated like a parole ideology that you're given a caseworker that definitely follows you, and when your third year is up, they're sending a police officer to your job? Okay, your visa's expired, let's go. Like, is it that serious, or it's just like...
No coming to get you.
Yeah, like...
Not really. Sometimes, I mean, generally, I would hope, like most of our clients, we keep them, we send ticklers. We're like, here's your next step. We're going to do this. And, you do have to change your address. That was after 9/11. They did require, like, everyone to change their address online, and, and I guess to keep up with people so they don't go. But if there's like most of the time, I think different jurisdictions might handle it differently. But I haven't seen a lot of people, if there's a denial, get placed immediately into removal proceedings. It could happen, but that would be the next step. Like if you run out of status, but sometimes they just don't issue, because you have to issue a notice to appear, serve it in the court, and so a lot of people aren't doing that. And there's like a time for appeal. So it's
like a small buffer, like process procedure.
I mean, we had one guy. I just don't, and sometimes if you lie to your lawyer and you don't take part in your case, like I just referred something to Amna, and I was like, because he didn't even tell us the extent of the criminal issues in his case, and it was a Violence Against Women's Act. And which we just got we don't do a lot of those, but I was like, I felt like he qualified for that aspect of it, but he lied on some previous form, and he didn't tell us about these criminal things. Then he didn't get the evidence we needed, and
You never lie to your lawyer.
I know.
Lawyers are like the only people that you can tell the whole truth to and be safe.
No, but she has like this real friendly kumbaya vibe.
But if you're a lawyer, then I can legally tell you things that I should not legally tell anybody else, and it is in this cocoon of protection. Like, it is the only person you should not. You lie to your spouse. Do not lie to your lawyer.
I just, don't lie on the form.
Right. Well, it's in writing. Yeah.
Don't make a misrepresentation in writing.
That's not wise. That's not wise.
I always kind of start. Because I start our consultations like in a way that's like you cannot lie. Because sometimes I'll get the information immediately. But if it's a possibility in the past that they might violate status of work without authorization, and then I'm like, listen, you got it. At the end of your process, you have to complete this form that asks you these questions. So you'll have to. So even though you're okay now, but remember, you've got to answer truthfully to this question. So you got to maybe I know it's like you're gonna have to sit around for a few months, which is like on a moral level, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we require these work permits and then we make people wait 6 months to even get them.
But you have.
I live in abundance, and I just feel like it's the best way to be. I give and give and give. I get it. I get so much. I keep getting so much back. I don't feel like I'm in lack. I feel just try to feel in that place of just goodness and happiness. But the immigration, under Trump, the whole policy was immigrants are going to come and take from you. We only have a limited number of jobs.
A limited number of air.
our resources in the U.S. are so scarce. You better be scared, and just get you down like to that bad place. We have abundant resources. Like we have room. If we kind of go to that place, like we do have room, we can help, and helping others, having this community is just like,
absolutely.
So like morally, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, we're doing the same exact thing. It's not working, guys. And I don't think, why did people, I mean, if something's not working, like as I'm an entrepreneur and running my law firm, if something doesn't work, I'm like, hey, what's a new process that we can do? Or let's change the way we do this because this is not working. And like we cascade that to the whole team. I'm like, we're going to just change this. And it's like a constant issue solving. And like we do these team meetings every week. But like the government just seems like it's so antiquated, and it's just like, I can't even believe it, you know? But I also know like I've got a job I've got to do for my clients, and, you know, I'll just figure it out. We'll just be creative. We'll just be creative. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't believe any of these laws are really protecting U.S. workers. Like there could be so much better. Like there could be a better way to do it for sure. And it's like no presidents or administrations actually bring in like the experts to like really give feedback. I mean,
that's true.
Our Bar Association, American Immigration Lawyers Association, I mean, everybody knows how we could just change everything. I mean, even easily change everything. And nobody seems to do it. And we just always go to that place of fear, of the unknown.
It's a big political motivator.
Yeah. And I hate that, you know, that we're not leading in a different way, but all I can do is I can change. I'm one person. That's all I can do. So all I can do is change the way I do things and impact that way. But it's just interesting.
Like one more question.
Yeah, we like down the last like 3 minutes.
Yeah, and you ended it really, really, really great there. But I did want to ask. So based on everything that you've told us, I'm curious: is it possible? Is it possible to immigrate to the United States without an attorney? Period. Because I can't imagine a single individual, however educated, could navigate this process. Yeah, it's just not a thing.
I mean, you could, of course, but I wouldn't recommend it. Honestly, I mean. This is what I tell people.
It sounds like impossible. Like it sounds like.
I mean, it sounds semi-impossible with a lawyer, let alone solo. Like
right.
I mean, we do it. It's fine. I mean, I'm like a go-getter. I'm like a can-do person. Like we'll get it done for you. But and if not, I'm going to be completely honest with you. But it's just like, why would you cheap out on one of the most important things in your life? Because I'm assuming the reason you don't want a lawyer is because you're living in scarcity and lack and don't want to spend money on something that's like probably I tell people that I'm like, and like, you know, someone was like, oh yeah, I want my son to petition me. He's just turned 21 and I can do the green card with him. And she's like, and I told her the fees and she fell on the floor. And I was like, you've known about this for 21 years.
You knew this day was coming.
You know, so that's you know, there's plenty of people that are willing to pay, and I mean,
I'm sure,
and see the value of what a lawyer can bring. I mean, because that's all I told. Like, I want to make an impact on you. That's why I'm here. It's not me. My whys are not about me at all. So, and I think a lot of lawyers are like that because I mean, we're making America a better place. You know, by just doing what we're doing. I mean, I know that. I mean, I believe. I'm like. I have a calling in life, and I've been doing it. Like if I look back, I mean, I'm gonna count that million. Just wait, you know.
All right, nice.
I'm gonna have that I'm gonna have those 1 million people that I've served. I mean, during my career, so or more.
All right, final thoughts. What are your anything you want to leave with the listeners as it pertains to immigration?
I mean, I think there's just a lot of hope, and I think I feel like I was talking about that energy's back. And, this has always been, my goal in life. And I'm kind of like an immigrant, my grandparents immigrated here. So I'm not, but I see the value in these people. I mean, sure. I live it because like half my team are like, I mean, I would say like 70% of my team are immigrants. Wow. And they are awesome. And they provide this richness and value to our country that is, and we don't know what life is like in the rest of the world. Sometimes we take for granted how amazing it is here, how free we are.
Oh, yeah.
And when someone really is grateful about their life here, they just live a different kind of life. So I think the immigrant perspective and just having that energy and those types of people here it's gonna, I mean, we've been doing this for hundreds of years, so I don't know why we'd want to stop now.
It's true. How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, we are www.goimmigrationlaw.com. I don't even know what my phone number is, but Garvish Immigration. I mean, there's no one else with my last name. So Garvish Immigration, goimmigrationlaw.com.
Very cool.
All right. Final thoughts?
No, this was really helpful. This was like really informative. We started at the beginning. We talked about some of the nitty gritty stuff. So I think that was really awesome and enlightening for people. And I hope that they do get a slightly broader lens. Again, it's an issue that affects a lot of people in our population. So I'm glad that we had you here as an expert and that we get to talk about a lot more than just DACA, because I do think as far as immigration news is concerned, we probably only hear really about DACA.
Yeah.
Or maybe about some sort of a humanitarian crisis that's going on. We don't necessarily hear about all the other individuals that are around us all the time.
There's so much more to this.
For sure.
All right. So special thanks to Ms. Garvish for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate, but we definitely have to get you back so we can really get into some of the other brass tacks that people, because a lot of these things you said, I don't even know what that means. I can pick up context clues, but like a lot of these different types of visas and stuff, people really got to know that kind of stuff. But on next Friday, we are starting to look at people that are running for office. So next week we have Jason B. Allen. He is an educator and he's running for Atlanta Board of Education seat 9. So he's going to be here. He was actually in the Black Men series and he was mind blowing when it comes to education. It's a passion he has. He's very serious about it. He's very intentional about it. So it's going to be an exciting time next Friday to hear his platform that he's running on. So definitely tune in next Friday, same time, same place, on the Leadership Bend Live podcast with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.